Hello, everybody, and welcome to Civ House. I'm Rob, and he's Connor, and we are excited today to be taking you through our very first tier list for Civilization 7. This will be our day one tier list, early tier list before we're getting to really deeply dive into the game. But Connor, how you doing today? Are you excited to be going over this with everybody?
Yeah, I'm stoked, man. Honestly, I'm just ready to play the game. So this is just us coping with not being able to play the game. So we're like, we'll just rank the leaders, kind of deal with it that way. But yeah, I'm stoked to get into this, man. There's a lot of really interesting things to talk about with these leaders.
Yeah, no doubt. And just know again that we didn't get the super early access or anything. We'll have the game early. So those of you who are playing on the 11th, hopefully this list will help you as well, and we may even make a second one. Early on, just to see how things go. But we wanted to at least get one out there for you guys over at Civ House. Or if this is your first time joining us as well, and you're just a Civilization fan, I'm going to encourage you to go over and subscribe and like. We're putting out Civ content on a fairly regular basis, even more than just once a day, if you count shorts as well. So we hope that you guys will join us on this journey. We're trying to build this channel and allow us to continue to put out great Civ content. It's a game that both Connor and I are very passionate about. You'll hear both of our voices over there. We are a part of the Game House as well, so if you want to check out articles that maybe go a little bit more in depth, or if you're more of a reader than a visual learner as well, we'll have that over there for you too. So we're really excited today. We're going to go through all the leaders. We are going to put them in a tier list. We're going to kind of explain our reasoning behind this. We just made a combined tier list. Maybe we'll change it up in the future as well. But make sure to let us know in the comments where you think these leaders should be ranked. If you think there's anybody that we missed, didn't put them in the right spot, all that jazz. But Connor, let's stop wasting time. Let's start with Amina.
Let's do it. Yep.
Where did we have Amina? What are your thoughts on her? The warrior queen of Zazao, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Yeah, so we had Amina in C tier, actually. So kind of a lower ranking for this one. This is an economic and military leader. You get increased gold per age for resource assigned to cities. We thought, this could be really good. You also get increased combat strength for all units on plains and desert tiles, and you get increased resource capacity in cities. So if you're able to resource stack, this can be really good. And so this could especially scale into later parts of the game. But you are going to be a little bit weaker in the early game, and it's really important to start off on a good foot in the Antiquity Age. So again, we don't think Amina is bad, but in the face of a lot of these other leaders, C is where we fell.
Yeah, and I'll just be honest too. We struggle with ones that need to be on certain tiles to a certain degree as well, because there's only so much space that you can have, and you will eventually have cities and settlements and towns, right, that are not going to be on those types of tiles, and that can really dramatically influence how good your leader is. That doesn't mean that she won't pair well with civs, and I want to say that we are not fully taking civs into account with these leaders. We're just doing it based on the base leader, so keep that in mind as well. But that is where we fell with Amina. Unfortunate, but hey, that's how it goes. Next up, we have Ashoka, World Renouncer. I'll give you guys the ability this time. Adds food in cities for excess happiness beyond the set amount. Increased food in all settlements during a celebration, and all buildings gain happiness adjacency for all improvements. Look, happiness is going to be important. Food is going to be important. Celebrations are going to be important. But having to have all of that kind of align means that unless if you're really in a celebration, even if you're stacking happiness, you're not going to be getting necessarily a lot, and you're just going to be getting food, which is very important for growth, but it doesn't really help you in a lot of other areas in the game.
Yeah, this one, we had this Ashoka persona, we'll say, in B tier, just because it felt like it didn't have anything it was particularly dominant in. Yes, food's important, happiness is important, and like celebrations are obviously we think going to be a thing that really can be gameplay impacting. But it just didn't feel like this one tipped the scale in any direction. And so that's where that B tier comes in. Just kind of like average, not bad, not great.
Exactly. And, again, Civ-wise, he may be able to pair with some civs a lot better that will make him better. But just as a base leader, meh, he's okay. But World Conqueror, Ashoka, very different. Increased production in cities for excess happiness beyond a set amount. Increased production in settlements not founded by you. Declaring a formal war grants you a celebration. Large increase to combat strength against fortified districts, which is insane, for all units during a celebration. And look, I am much more military focused, Connor, but like, this is just insane.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's a couple parts of this that seem pretty game breaking. Declaring a formal war, granting a celebration seems wild to me.
Bonkers.
I mean, if you're going for that kind of expansionist, militaristic, like attacking other players' borders, you're kind of always going to be dealing with happiness as a part of that, and that there's always drawbacks to having like too many settlements, things like that. But this is going to really counteract that, I think, and allow you to not only expand but kind of keep your empire happy while doing so. And yeah, like you said at the end there, the increased combat strength against fortified districts during a celebration. You're going to be in a celebration during almost every war, so it just seems really, really strong.
And not just that, and just so you know, we are going to put Ashoka 2, World Conqueror, in S tier. You can also stack celebrations, right? Like, you can wait to declare your formal war until your celebration's over, right? So if you get a natural one through happiness, and then you use, the opportunity to declare a formal war, like, you can be in celebration all throughout, right? And you can declare war on multiple enemies. Like, such a great snowballing leader as well. Just insanely strong. And I know that military is what a lot of people focus on in this game. There are other ways to win this game, without a doubt, right? And if you're looking to get, the different tiers that you need to in, like, militaristic, some of it has to come down to taking down settlements, right? And being able to take down walls faster than other people, that's just OP. So
yeah, it's one of the things that can slow you down in wars for sure. And so we think from a military perspective, Ashoka is really good. And speaking of a military perspective, we've got Augustus up next.
Yep.
And Augustus' ability is he adds production to the capital for every town. Wow, that's a good ability. And he gets increased gold towards purchasing buildings in towns. Wow, even better. And can purchase culture buildings in towns. And so he's obviously a culture military leader. And I mean, this just seems towns. If you want to know more about the differences between cities and towns, we've got kind of a full breakdown on the actual Civ House channel, explaining that more. But I mean, towns just seem like they're going to be this powerhouse thing, especially when you put them in the hands of someone like Augustus. It just seems like a very, very strong Civ, Rob.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, he's going up here in S tier as well. We're not ranking them necessarily within the tier, just, in each tier.
Right. Yeah.
And look, production is a crucial resource, a crucial stat in the game. The higher your production, the more you can, get over things like happiness or science, because you're able to, produce more videos, more. Oh my gosh.
We're going to have more videos here at Civ House, by the way, so make sure and tune in, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely those. Just more buildings and units and all those things, right? Like, it makes it better. Production is just very big in these games. And the fact that, like, you're already getting gold from having towns, and it's increasing, that you can use it towards, just becoming a production powerhouse. This signifies what Rome was and is. And it's just insane. It's really strong, and it's going to be easy again to snowball as Augustus. But we promise, again, it's not just going to be military civs up in the S tier. Right. And yeah, I guess we'll move on to Mr. Benjamin Franklin, somebody who I think a lot of people are excited about, Connor. Increased science per age on production buildings and cities, increased production towards constructing production buildings, increased science per age from active endeavors you started or supported, and can have multiple endeavors of the same type going at the same time. And I think that's the one I want to focus on, because most of the time you can only have one endeavor with, each different civ. Having multiple of the same one especially if you find one in a certain game that's helping you diplomatically. That can be very, very strong.
Yeah, this just kind of screams min-maxing for science, which seems good. So we have Ben Franklin in A tier because of this, and yeah, I mean, again, this is one, like we use the term snowballing, so the idea of you get better as the game goes on.
Yep.
We think this is something that Ben Franklin, I mean, kind of representing a more modern aged character in general based on the timeline of the game. I think he will kind of peak in the modern age, but should be really serviceable through antiquity and exploration as well. So yeah, just if you're looking for a science and kind of more play on the back foot, a bit more defensively, if that's your play style, I think you'd enjoy Ben Franklin a ton.
I couldn't agree more. But we'll head on to Catherine the Great. Connor, you want to give us a little, a little look at the Russian civ or leader?
Yeah, I'm not high. Before we got started, we kind of we were oscillating between two tiers, and they're not great tiers. But I'll talk about her abilities and see what you all think of this. But so she has the Star of the North, unique ability, increased culture per age on displayed great works. Buildings with great works slots gain an additional slot. Cities settled in tundra gain science equal to the percentage of their culture per turn. So the last bit is the saving grace, and I think this is what kept Catherine out of D tier.
Yeah,
we do have her in C tier because you can do some really cool things to kind of feed your culture with your science. But I don't know if this is just not our play style or not our cup of tea or what. But this just doesn't seem like it's going to be that impactful for me. And in the face of some of these other abilities, I think Catherine is going to struggle from a meta perspective early on.
Well, I just think that great works as well. They're very hard. Like, not only do you have to create the buildings, but be able to find them or create them, right, or trade for them. And while I think they're going to be a lot more accessible in Civ 7 than they were in Civ 6, it's just tough to be able to do that. And like we said, we already give kind of a down tiering for city or for, different abilities that are based off of tiles, right? And while Tundra is a pretty easy one to keep your cities in, the reason why I didn't move her up to B tier was because of the fact that, you want to settle by rivers and water, right? And there's just not going to probably be enough room for her to do so. And so she's going to have to start working her way down south. And that's where your cities are going to start to really stagnate on your ability. And that's what really kind of crushed her for me. She, like you said, I think this, gaining the science equal to the percentage of their culture per turn, I think is really, really, really strong. And if you can play in even if they come out with a map or there's a mod that's just mostly Tundra, then Catherine the Great's just going to roll over everybody, right? Like, she'll be so far ahead of everybody. But that comes to our last point that I don't know if we made about Benjamin Franklin too, about science civs. They don't have the same power that they used to, right? Like, I believe it was Hammurabi maybe in Civ 5 or Civ 6 who, of Babylon, who could literally just steamroll games because, and I just started banning him from my game from being in a random game. And they really nerfed science, in my opinion, by having everybody kind of catch up / restart almost with every era. So that makes it so that even her scaling, her stacking of science is maybe not as great as everybody else's. Now, if you're just going for a science victory, then it might be really strong, but you're going to have to survive and you're going to have to do a lot of other things just to get there. So she just feels more difficult.
Cloistered play style up in the north. So maybe if you're a Game of Thrones fan and you like the idea of being north of the wall or something like that, maybe this is a character for you. Who knows?
That's a good point. That's a good point as well. But yeah, give us Charlemagne, dude.
Yeah, Charlemagne is the father of Europe. Military and science buildings receive a happiness adjacency for quarters, gain a set number of free cavalry units once unlocked when entering a celebration, increase combat strength for cavalry units during a celebration. So this is another military science one, probably with a bit more emphasis on the military side, especially if you can pair Charlemagne with a civ, maybe that has a good, unique cavalry unit.
Yes.
This could be really good. I think I've seen, some early play tests of that, and it looked pretty strong. But this is going to be, again, it's going to be dependent on getting happiness, which at least you get some bonuses to that. So basically, if you can get into the cycle of happiness, get free units, use those units to expand, get happiness again, that could be a pretty good gameplay loop. But in the face of some of these other military leaders, Rob, we had Charlemagne in B tier, just because of some of the power of some of these other military abilities.
Well, and I think too, like getting military and science buildings, you building a quarter and then having to build your other buildings around those quarters is good, but at the same time, it can be like you're going to need wide open plains and stuff like that, and you're going to basically be building like different little city centers around your main city.
Right.
That can be very good, but at the same time, like, are you really going to have that much space without a different resource or a mountain in the way or even a navigable river, right? Like, there are just going to be a lot of different things that could cause an issue for that and not allow it to stack the way that it needs to. And, you're very reliant on getting cavalry units. And sometimes you may have to trade for horses instead of having them right away. So that can definitely be a problem. That being said, if you can get this guy into a good spot, and like you said, being a civ that has, natural horses or natural horse military units, then watch out.
Yeah.
That could be very strong.
You need to have a lot of tempo early game with Charlemagne, we think, because I think if you don't get an early lead in the Antiquity Age, you're going to probably fall behind. But anyway, again, we can move on now to someone I really want to be good, and that's Confucius. Confucius, his unique ability is pretty simple. Increased growth rate in cities, increased science from specialists. So pretty basic, just kind of this scientific growth mindset within your cities. But I don't know, Rob. I'm not super high on Confucius personally.
Yeah, I'm not either. We have him here in C tier. I think he could have been pushed down to D tier, but I do think that increased growth rates in cities can be really good, right? It will allow him to naturally take over more land than people, especially in the early game. And then I think, getting extra science specialists are a big deal in this game. And this is one of the first mentions I think we've had of a leader having a direct effect on specialists. And being able to do science and expand will thus allow you to have a good military and a lot of other things. So, like, they're hitting two really big areas of success in the game, and I think that allows it to be in C tier. The problem is we just don't know how much that's going to be yet. There really is a world where Confucius could be all the way in A tier, because while it may be very simple, if you can kind of just grow the way that you want to and just really focus on making sure that you're getting as many specialists as possible, it can make Confucius really, really strong, right? But at the same time, if you get landlocked too early, or if you're just not able to get to those specialists the way that you want to, he could be one of the worst leaders in the game. So I felt like, along with you, that C was a very good spot to start him in, and we will see if he will climb or not.
Yep, but if you want like a jack of all trades, kind of able to play any kind of game style, which can be good with the new Legacy Pass system, you can kind of balance your play style, avoid Dark Ages, things like that. Confucius could be good. That's just kind of trying to be devil's advocate to our C tier, but yeah, I just am not seeing a ton here early to inspire me with Confucius, sadly.
Yeah, which is a bummer. I will say Friedrich has not been added in here yet, Connor, so give me 2 seconds to get him added onto this list, because
I will go ahead and I can go ahead and talk about Friedrich in the meantime.
Yeah.
So Friedrich has he's one of these leaders with two different personas. So I'll talk about each one of those, and we'll get them ranked. We have them ranked on the back end, just got to get them on the actual tier maker here. But Friedrich has the oblique persona, and that's going to be kind of the more militaristic one, where army commanders start with the merit commendation, which gives you increased command radius range. This is one of the ones that I've seen a lot of people using early that looks pretty strong. And you also gain an infantry unit when you construct a science building. So that seems right away pretty strong. And then we'll look at the Baroque persona as well, and then we'll get them ranked. The Baroque persona, you get a great work upon capturing a settlement for the first time, which sounds pretty cool. And you gain an infantry unit when you construct a culture building. So in both, you're getting units, just kind of different ways. It's whether you want to go more scientific in military or more cultural in military. And we had these two actually ranked pretty differently. With the first one, the oblique, we actually had this in A tier because honestly, having the army commander start with a commendation with how strong army commanders seem like they're going to be and how impactful they're going to be and the importance of leveling them in the early game, this just seems like a great starting point for that, especially as you get more and more army commanders. And yeah, I mean, pairing this with science seems like a no-brainer, and getting the infantry unit sounds great. So
yeah, I'll jump in real quick with oblique. Look, the command radius range is huge. That means that Friedrich's commanders will actually be able to have more units right off the bat within their like little army, right? And that can be insanely good for fighting wars. Now, there will be people who can catch up, sure, but you're not going to have to miss that step. It reminds me of like when Rome would get, what was it? Was it the obelisk? Something like that. It looked like an obelisk, right? For culture, right? And just having that naturally in its first 6 cities. Like, that was insane, honestly. It takes away an entire process that you don't need to worry about. And it's going to make your commander a lot stronger, like you said. And I think, science naturally pairs really well with military. And I think they're trying to change that with Baroque. But the problem is, Connor, is that, again, getting a great work is great, and being able to get a cultural building is great, but I've also heard and read and seen that cultural victories are really tough in this game right now. For some people, I've even heard them say they don't make a lot of sense necessarily. It is one of the tougher ones, and I just don't see military necessarily just hitting that, and for that reason we put it in C tier. The only reason that Friedrich is not in D tier list is because getting a free unit when constructing a building is awesome. Again, another thing that you are taking out of the equation, right? If you can build a building and a unit at the same time, you always want to be able to do that. And that's what makes Friedrich Oblique so strong, is you're taking 2 processes out of your military just right off the bat. You don't have to go get the extra experience for that Marin commendation. You don't have to worry about whether or not you even want to pick it. You just have it, and then you're getting a free freaking unit with a science building. Like, it's too obvious for me for these two to be ranked where they are right now. I could even see Oblique getting moved up into S tier in the future, to be honest with you. I think he's that strong.
Yeah, I agree. And I think why we slight Baroque here is for all the things Rob mentioned, but as well, it seems like there's just other better civs if you want to play a kind of cultural dominance victory. Like, I would just rather play Augustus, even though he's not technically militaristic.
Correct.
I think you can do more from a cultural military perspective with his ability than with this one. So, but that's going to be up to the player and up to you to decide that for yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Next, we'll have Harriet Tubman. A really fun new addition that I think a lot of people from America specifically are very excited about. I know I am. A diplomatic militaristic attribute with a pretty cool ability, right? Increased influence towards initiating espionage actions, gain a set amount of war support on all wars declared against you, and units ignore movement penalties in vegetated tiles. Again, it's almost every time for us, Connor, the very end is what saves these abilities. It is a cool ability, don't get me wrong. But I don't think that espionage is all that important. And I think, Connor, you made the point when we were talking about this that if you're going to play espionage at all, this is the only leader that you can really go with.
Yeah, I'm just going to say right now, I'm going to be dedicated to making Harriet Tubman work. I think this could be a really fun play style because the idea would be, you're going to start in a vegetated tile, and your units are going to ignore the movement penalties from that, but your enemies aren't. So like you're going to be able to kind of like hold down in like this movement penalty fortress and spy on people, and then you get war support, which is huge for your unit's combat rating on units on wars declared against you. I think the play style could be really, really fun and interesting and new, but on the nose, it just doesn't seem like, compared to other civs, this is going to be anything too good. And so we had Harriet Tubman in C tier, sadly. But I'm telling you, Rob, I'm gonna make Harriet Tubman work. Harriet Tubman will be meta. if I have anything to say about it. So
Well, I
I'm
mean,
determined.
let's be honest. Like, if you can get her and have cities in marshes or in, just I don't know, trees or I forget what the other ones are called, but the two different tropical and I forget what the other one's called. But like, if you can get into those areas, like, you're going to be what has caused a lot of different armies in the past to just kind of ignore certain areas because they don't want to bog through the swamps or, go through the forests, right? Like, that can be very, very, very good for her. And like you said, keep her alive late into games. It's just that she doesn't have anything that stacks really well. And I think that that's what really kills her here right now, honestly.
Yeah.
The set amount of war support for wars declared against her, great. Defensive wars are like, if Harriet Tubman wants to expand, it's pretty much not going to happen. Like, you could build tall with Harriet Tubman and just be absolutely impenetrable, but then you got to decide, how are you going to win the game? And I just don't see a very clear way of how she's going to win the game. Based on all the different, ways that you can win the game, right? I don't see a clear economic or cultural or scientific or military, right? Like, she just, maybe military, I guess, but like, a lot of those military ones require you to go out and actually take settlements, which is not necessarily going to be her strong suit. So, a little unfortunate, but that's okay. We've got Hatshepsut up next. One that we've known about since the very beginning, basically. Egypt always getting some representation here. Adds culture for every imported resource. Increased production towards the construction of buildings and wonders in cities adjacent to the navigable rivers. Oh, basically the same as Egypt has always been, but the problem here is, oh man, I don't know how else to say it. She sucks.
Yeah. I don't see anything here. I mean, there's honestly nothing in her kit. I don't want to be too, rough about this. I just don't. There's no reason I would play this Civ right now. This leader rather. So we have her in D tier. I mean, I guess if you're gonna go like ultra culture trading, maybe. But yeah, Rob, I don't know. Maybe this isn't my play style, but I don't see it at all.
I mean, it's just that it becomes a thing where you're going to build out down navigable rivers, right? Like, that's just what you're going to do. But the problem is there's limited space, right? Like, from what I've seen, you maybe have 4 tiles on navigable rivers, and that can be great, but like, how many wonders are you really going to be able to build when you've got to use those for buildings to get their maximum efficiency, right? Like, she could be really good if you are in that area, and you will start on one. So your first city, great. But what about after that, right? Like, are there going to be enough navigable rivers on your map that you're going to be able to go take that area? Or are you going to have to go super far and your cities are going to be too spaced out? Like, and then as well, like the imported resources, right? Like, we've seen that there are a lot of resources in the game. So yes, that's good. You'll get a lot of culture from that. But like, if you're on certain areas, you're going to kind of have the same, number of resources, right? And I know it's different than it was in Civ 6. Resources have been, I think, almost completely revamped, it feels like, to a certain degree, especially trading as well. But I don't know. I mean, I'm normally a big economic person. I love to play economic civs, but like you said, I think Hatshepsut is probably pretty low compared to the rest of these. There will be a playstyle for her for sure. And if you are able to get next to like 2 or maybe even 3 navigable rivers within a certain number of tiles, like, you may be able to create just an absolute empire without a doubt. But it's just so dependent on that it just makes me worried. It just makes me worried that you won't be able to do what you need to do to get the number of wonders and the number of buildings that you need on those on those spaces to make yourself into the powerhouse that some of these other civs can be, or leaders, excuse me. So used to civs.
Yeah.
But.
And same. But speaking of powerhouses,
yes.
I think our next one up, I'm pretty high on it, at least, and that's Himiko. I also went to Japan a couple years ago and really loved it, so maybe there's some personal bias coming in here. But her unique ability grants, she gains a unique endeavor called Friend of Way, I think is how you say that, that can be performed in an alliance to grant you and your ally increased science. You can support endeavors for free. That's a big one. And add science per age for every leader you're friendly or helpful with. So this is where maybe Rob and I's play styles being different really comes out, because I'm a lot more of a like diplomat. I love to leverage the city states and other civs and kind of play more on the back foot, where Rob's a bit more maybe militaristic, I would say. But for my play style, this seems about as good as it can get, especially the supporting endeavors for free. This is just something I'm big on influence in this game. I think it's going to be an extremely valuable currency and kind of it's something new they're introducing. So I think they are kind of power scaling it a bit. And I think if you're going to use influence, this is maybe, barring maybe one other one down the line, is maybe the best civ to use in the game, and this persona in particular.
Yeah, I mean, being able to support endeavors for free, like, pretty much moves into B tier automatically for me. And then, I mean, if you're able to stay friends, which you can in some games with somebody else, that gives you a very clear path, right, to a scientific victory. I think that's huge. Like, you can, there may not be a better scientific victory than Himiko right now, like, leader-wise. If you can stay out of wars, basically, which I think you can in this game a lot easier than other games, you still will get surprise wars for sure. And there will be the unfortunate games where you're, next to Ashoka, World Conqueror, and Augustus, right? Like, definitely can be a problem. But if not, then, Himiko's is S tier without a doubt. More often than not, like, she's just going to be so strong, dude. So strong.
And this is the queen of Wa persona, by the way, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but apologies. We do have one more persona that I kind of forgot to mention. She had two. Yeah. The next one we're going to talk about is the high shaman persona. This one gives you increased happiness per age on happiness buildings, increased production towards constructing happiness buildings, and gain increased culture but slightly reduced science with increased effects during a celebration. So you're just keeping your people as happy as possible, gaining the cultural benefits from doing so, losing out a bit on science. Bit of a pivot. I don't know, Rob, this is an interesting one. A really different kind of play style to kind of lean into the celebrations and culture.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that's where, celebrations coming back, it's clearly been a big focus for them with a lot of different civs that they have and a lot of different, leaders as well. It's production's important, right? But there's just something about this one that didn't really stand out to me. I think happiness being a currency is good, but I worry about, again, how are you going to win? I guess like getting the game. I guess you just never get to win science, right? Like you like if you take Himiko High Shaman, you're just not going to win a science victory. Or maybe that should be something people try to do, right? Is actually win a science victory. Yeah, because that will be very challenging to do. Because you want celebrations, and if you're getting all this production and everything else combined into happiness, it just reduces science. And maybe it's just because I've heard so much about the cultural victories just being some of the more awkward ones. That's kind of causing me to feel differently about culture in this game. But, we did have to put, Himiko High Shaman in the B tier. There's good stuff here. Production we've talked about, happiness. But losing that science, in having culture instead means that you're very locked into one way of winning, and that way kind of conflicts with itself at times. But if you can play it right, there's definitely a chance that you can come out on top with Himiko. So, yeah. Well,
I think B tier is totally fair, though. I think that's again, good cultural, but nothing too crazy. Probably better cultural civs to play or leaders to play, but
without a doubt,
we'll see.
Yeah, we will, and we'll head on next to I believe it's Ibn Battuta or Battuta. Yeah, Battuta. Yep. And literally the only one in the game that has the attribute called, or just an attribute considered wild card, meaning that he can kind of do a little bit of everything. His ability definitely is more trading focused, so I don't know why they didn't make him necessarily like an economic leader, but it's gains multiple attribute points after the first civic in every age, increased sight for all units, gain a unique endeavor called trade maps that let you gradually see other leaders in explored areas. Now, there was one thing that we didn't think about Connor, when I was thinking about, or when we were talking about this, but scouts are actually going to be super strong on Eben. And I think that that's going to be something that's going to be really worth, taking a look at in a very serious way, because you're already getting increased sight on that unit, but then you're going to be getting even more so. And I think that can allow you, especially during the exploration age, right, to be able to find areas to settle sooner. You have the treasures, right? The treasure troves, I think they're calling them, out there in the ocean as well. I think that's going to be good. And I think early game, it's going to be good too. I think where even Battuta falls off in a major way is going to be in the modern era. I think that is going to be a big, big problem for this leader, without a doubt. And it's going to be, something that we will have to kind of watch to see if there's like a civ that can pair with him to make him a little bit better. But we are going to put him here in the B tier. And I guess, let us know, or let me know as well, what your thoughts are on him as well.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, though. I think the exploration age is where he peaks and could be one of the best exploration age civs, and certainly good in the antiquity age to get that initial vision and maybe get some ideal settlement spots. But yeah, I mean, you said it, Rob. Modern age seems really bad for this guy. So I think to balance all that out, B is fair. Could even see this going a little lower.
Yeah.
But hey, for the Always Sunny fans, wild card, baby. Love that. Yeah. So I gotta love our wild card. But yeah, B tier it is.
Charlie making it into our Civ video. Who would have guessed?
Yeah, who would have guessed? What a collab.
I know, what a collab, right? All right, next we have Jose Rizal, or no, it's Isabella.
Isabella's next.
Isabella. Yeah. Okay. Gain gold every time you discover a natural wonder. Increased if the natural wonders in distant lands receive additional tile yields from natural wonders. Additional gold towards purchasing naval units, and reduced gold maintenance costs for naval units. Wow. It sounds like Isabella will be great during the exploration age. But
yeah, that's about it though. This is another one. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me, but just having a perk centered around discovering natural wonders just doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
I mean, cool if you get them, but man, you really have to get lucky and be able to found a settlement on a natural wonder to really even activate this.
Yeah.
Now the naval unit cost reduction is great. It'll be good for the exploration age, good for the modern age, but I don't know, just not seeing a lot.
Yeah, she struggles in a big way for me, to say the least. Like, I just think that the whole, natural wonder thing, great. But, like, what if you have more natural wonders on the main continent, right? So you're not getting that additional bonuses. Like, are you even going to make it to the point where you're into the exploration age and able to actually, like, do something with this, right? There's just a lot of question marks around Isabella, and I just don't like that, and I don't think you did either, and that's why she's going down into the D tier list, unfortunately. It is a big womp womp, but naval units will be great. Like, she will command the high seas, but for how long, and what will that look like when everybody else has kind of just gotten past your exploration age? Like, you can potentially dominate one era, but again, that's a big potential, and that's why it's in D tier. If you are able to get the correct setup with her, though, I think she's easily up into the B or A tier. But I just think for right now, just at first glance, I just don't know if that's going to be the case. But Connor, take me to this next guy here, because I know you're very excited for him, but he may not be all that we were hoping.
Yeah, Jose Rizal is by far the drippiest leader in the game. I mean, his fit is absolutely stellar. He's looking good. He's probably my favorite character art in the game. His ability, though, is when gaining rewards from a narrative event, our kind of first narrative event mention, gain additional culture and gold per age, increased celebration duration and happiness towards celebrations, has additional narrative events. So this is one where I feel similar to Jose that I do about Harriet Tubman, where I just want to make him work as a leader. Just sounds really interesting to be able to go around and have these cool narrative events that are better than normal, get a whole bunch of culture, and win that way. But that just, as I even say it out loud, doesn't really sound like a way to win, Rob. Like, I don't know how you win with him. It's interesting. He looks cool, though.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
How do you win?
I mean, again, you got to go for cultural, and that's fine. But the thing is that like you don't know how many guaranteed narrative events you're going to get. So trying to plan around that can be, I think, very difficult. And look, it's not that even these D tier civs, right? Like they're going to create a challenge, right? It'll make the game more difficult, and I think that can be good, right? But that's not saying that. Oh, and I guess I should say we are putting him down in D tier. Should put him there. But that's not to say that like they're bad necessarily. And it's not that we're only ranking them in D because they're difficult. It just doesn't sometimes feel like they mesh very well. And there are things that we don't know about narrative events yet. A lot of players have been putting in 60 plus hours, and they say that like these narrative events are great, but like we just don't know how many of them there are. I don't know. There's just a lot that goes around this one that I think is just so unpredictable, and when you have that unpredictability, you're really leaving things up to chance in a game that's already pretty heavily RNG based, and that can just make things a little unfun, unfortunately. That makes it tough. But we'll move on here to Lafayette, which I love the addition personally of Lafayette. I think the Marquis de Lafayette, such a cool person in history. His Hero of Two Worlds abilities gains a unique endeavor called Reform, which grants an additional social policy slot. Supporting this endeavor also grants another leader an additional social policy slot, increased combat strength for every tradition but not policy slotted in the government, increased culture and happiness per age in settlement. These effects are further increased in distant lands. Holy crap. A lot there. But that's what makes this guy very interesting for us, because there's a lot of different play styles that you could go with, right? Because of the fact that you're getting this, unique endeavor. Reform is such a good one. You can really imagine if you're playing in a 2v2 game against somebody, Connor, this is a guy you want to go with, right? And even if you just pick hey, I want this civ that's maybe not right next to me, my neighbor, but the one behind them, right, to be my person. If you're giving them, social policy slots, they're going to love you for that, right? That's going to give you some really good stuff there. Along with that, getting the increased combat strength. He's supposed to be cultural diplomatic, but you're getting combat strength as well for every tradition slotted in the government slots. Look, I mean, that's pretty great. You're getting culture, you're getting happiness per age in settlements, and it helps even beyond into the exploration age. There's just so many good parts. It doesn't feel like he's necessarily super strong in any one area, but he's not super weak in one either. And because of that, he's in B, Connor, and I'm pretty okay with that.
Yeah, I am too. I think that you hit a lot of it on the head, but I really think that he's going to be, to really min-max him, it's going to be a bit higher skill of a player.
Yes.
So it's not something that I would recommend if you're new to Civ, loading up your first game with Lafayette. I don't think that's the play. But if you're someone who is kind of a Civ veteran and you can kind of maximize all these different elements of his build, I think he can be really strong. I also think, and you hit this as well, but I think he's extremely adaptable. I think he's cultural diplomatic, but I think you can really go down any one of the legacy paths that you choose, especially based on what Civ you end up with going with them. All in all, I mean, B tier could be low, but I think because of the balance and because of kind of the skill cap, it is, I think, a fair rating for Lafayette. But one I'm definitely excited to play. Very interesting kit for sure. Yeah,
he's definitely one that's going to be up there for me. And this is why I wanted to point out with Jose Rizal that we're not just putting the more difficult leaders down in D tier to win with. Lafayette is difficult, but in a very different way, to where he has multiple different avenues that you could win with, and he's not necessarily going to dominate in any of them, but he allows you to have that ability to pivot when you need to, and I think that's really good. You want to take us through Machiavelli, though?
Yeah, I know you're excited about Machiavelli. So Machiavelli gains additional additional influence per age, which I'm very high on influence, so that's already a good start. Gain a set amount of gold per age when your diplomatic proposals are accepted, or even more gold per age when they are rejected, which is such a cool mechanic.
Yep.
Ignore relationship requirements for declaring formal wars.
Insane.
Another big one. And you can levy military units from city-states you are not the suzerain of. Every single part of this is good.
Yep.
Especially if you have like more of Rob's play style where you like to be a little bit more aggressive, maybe on the front foot, have some military presence. But honestly, this is kind of just a fun way to be a thorn in everyone's side and benefit from it, which sounds awesome.
Yeah, and you're able to do it without necessarily being at war with everybody, but you're still able
Yeah.
to do that if you want to. Like, again, he is considered to be a diplomatic, economic, but he is just as much militaristic as he is those. And like you said, I mean, gaining the influence, great, okay? That's great for diplomacy. Gaining gold when your diplomatic actions are accepted, right? Like, great. That's super strong. Like, you want to create a good relationship with people, and then even if they're not, you still are going to get more gold. So no matter what, you're winning every single side of the deal, which is absolutely insane, right? Like using diplomacy as a form of trading, right? Like if you're about to be in a war or you're in a war and you just want to start throwing out diplomatic actions to try to get people to give you money so you can buy more units or something like that is just absolutely insane. And then ignoring the relationship requirements for declaring a formal war is awesome. They have formal and surprise wars. You're never going to have a surprise war. So you're never going to get those grievances. You're never going to get all of that other, war weariness or any war fatigue, any of that. That's just crazy strong. And then just being able to levy military units from cities that you're not suzerains of. Like, this guy screams S tier. You could put him with just about any civ and he's going to be good. I honestly think personally that Machiavelli might be the best leader in the entire game right now. Just to be completely honest with you guys, I think you could make that argument very, very easily. Even if you're going for science or something like that, just imagine the amount of gold that you can get and the amount of units that you can get to defend yourself. And then if somebody else is trying to overtake you in science, you can just go conquer them and declare a surprise war on them without it counting as a surprise war. Like, there's just so many ways that I can see you playing with Machiavelli. It's a really genius leader that they've created in this game. He's so unique. He's going to be really, really fun to play.
Yeah, Rob, I think I think it's pretty clear. Maybe not, but I think it's at least pretty clear that he's the best civ in the game right now because of it's just such a strong kit, especially when you compare it to some of the other ones in like A and B tier.
Yeah,
it just seems so superior. I mean, there's just not a bad way to play with him. So
no.
Definitely, if you're looking for a fun one to try when Civ 7 comes out, go for Machiavelli right away.
Well, and the fact that you compare him, I know we weren't saying this much, but you can pair him with Rome, you can pair him with Imperial France, you can pair him with the Normans. There's a lot of really good European civs that you can go with Machiavelli. I may try Machiavelli China or Machiavelli Russia, though, so keep that in mind. Cool. We'll have to see. But yeah, all right, let's head into Napoleon here. Had to add him on here as well. Notice that one before the video, though, so there you go. So gains a unique diplomatic action that reduces the trade route capacity for a target civilization and causes massive grievances. Increased gold per age for every leader that you're unfriendly or hostile with. Oh boy. Napoleon the Emperor. Wow, this guy is going to drive people absolutely nuts in their game if they're the ones not playing them.
Yeah, I mean, this is his Emperor persona that we're talking about here, and I feel this one's interesting. I think that not that we necessarily disagreed on this one, but I feel like whenever one of your main abilities is just kind of a nerf to other players, it's just not that strong. But I mean, gaining gold per age for every leader you're unfriendly or hostile with, that kind of goes off the Machiavelli playstyle as well, which was funny for Napoleon and Machiavelli to be similar. But I'm not as high on this one, but I could see it being really strong. I mean, anything to hinder other players in the game is going to be good. It's just I wish there was more benefit for him. So we ended up with B tier here for this persona for Machiavelli, or for Napoleon rather.
Yeah, and I think it comes down for me to the trade routes. I'm a big trade person, and I think losing a trade route capacity can be huge, especially if it's random. I know that I don't know exactly if that's going to work that way where, maybe you even get to pick which one, right? And that will allow you to really hinder trade between him and somebody else, and then he's going to have to move one of his other trade routes to there. there's just so much that you can do with that. And the fact that you can do that and cause massive grievances against them, that's where I really like it, Connor, is I think that you are just instantly able to start kind of turning people against somebody and cripple their economy at the same time, while then increasing yours because they're going to hate you, right? So it's a three-pronged attack in one sort of, movement. And I think that I would have loved to have seen Napoleon get a tiny bit more with his military. We'll see it a little bit more in the revolutionary one, but I think even this emperor one, I would have loved to have seen him do a little bit more with it. I agree with you. That's what kept him in B tier for me, but I do think that causing that much disruption, like if you are a player who loves to create chaos, whether it's in your multiplayer games with your friends or whether it's, just in general in a game that you're playing, like this guy is going to be it. He is going to, again, if you're playing him, he's going to piss a lot of people off. I know I'm going to be mad when I'm facing off against Napoleon. He's trying to get me to attack him, and he's going to do so by crippling my economy and telling everybody else basically that I suck. Like, there's just a lot of benefit there.
Yeah, he'll be the thorn in the side for sure. So let's look at now the revolutionary persona. So this is increased movement for all land units, and defeating an enemy unit provides culture equal to a percentage of its combat strength. This one's really cool. A flat movement increase for all land units is really good and kind of is like an ageless benefit. Like that can be good at any point in the game. And this is I think this would actually be a really fun way to try and go for a cultural / militaristic playstyle, kind of similar to what we talked about with Augustus.
Yep.
But it just seems like it's not as good as Augustus. That's kind of maybe my standard in my own head for what a cultural, military or some kind of hybrid of that looks like. And so this kind of just fell a little bit flat for me, but still seems strong.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, the culture, again, is just not as strong in this game. And that could get patched and changed. And then you're like, oh my God, like Napoleon Revolutionary, so good. Right.
Sure.
But it does allow you to get cultural victories a lot sooner through fighting, which I think can be very good. But I think the thing that really moves him up to B tier, right next to his other persona, is got to be the increased movement for land units. That alone is very, very strong. And it almost pushed him into A tier for me. Again, it just feels like they kind of held back a little bit on Napoleon. I would have liked to see them push it just a tiny bit more now that he's back in the game. We've gotten a lot of other French leaders in the past. Getting Napoleon here is a very, very interesting and I think a good choice. But just the increased movement, man, that is so huge. That is so huge in the early game. I think specifically in the antiquity age and the modern age, I think that's going to be a lot stronger. I know that we get flying and naval units, but I think a lot of the naval stuff in the exploration age is going to be really big, so you won't maybe have as many land battles, but at the same time, while people are focusing on throwing their ships somewhere, you might be able to just kind of come in and take them over with your land units. So just being able to kind of run circles around people with your movement is just huge to me, and something that I think you'll have to take into consideration. But we'll move on here to Pachacuti. The leader of Cusco, right? The Incan Empire, if I remember correctly. I don't know. Well, yeah, Incan Empire. Wow, brain was farting there big time. But Earthshaker ability. All buildings gain a food adjacency for mountains. Specialist adjacent to mountains do not cost happiness maintenance, which that portion is very good. Getting food adjacency, very good. Trying to figure out how in the world you're going to build around just one or two mountains, really bad.
Yeah, I think this is the worst leader in the game. I'll say it. I think we have him in D tier. I don't know. There's just not. I mean, it sounds cool, right? To have this neat, kind of like Machu Picchu empire in the mountains. Like that sounds interesting and fun and cool. But I don't know. I just don't see the again. Like I think of when we're rating these leaders, I think of how balanced are they, how adaptable are they. But also, what are the legacy paths that I'm inevitably going to want to target with them? And this is a bit of a blank slate where, you're going to get some benefits early on, but I don't really see a clear direction with him. and the kind of all around benefits don't seem as strong as some of the other ones, and so it feels kind of like a lose-lose.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of like what would make Pachacuti better, and I was thinking of like two things. One, I do think the Nepal Civ is coming out with Crossroads of the World in late March, I believe. That could be an interesting one to pair with him, just because I think that Civ is going to have something to do with mountains, right? But I think that would have really maybe allowed him to stand out, right? So if you remember in Civ 6, I forget, is it the Maori? Yeah, I think that's who it was that got added to the game, where they start on a water tile and they can settle kind of, anywhere that they want to, just kind of going over the ocean, and they're the first ones to do that. What I think have been good is if they had, and what would make him a good leader is if it allowed his civs to settle on top of mountains and then use that area around the mountains, right? The problem is you settle a city next to a mountain and you're losing that tile right off the bat, right? And I just think that not only would that make him cooler, more unique, I just think it would make him better, right? It would. And it would be not only just that uniqueness, but it would really allow you to build up, that's 6 buildings right around the mountain. And that could be huge. So it's disappointing. I think that Pachacuti could be good if you get like a very mountainous area. Then yeah, he could be an absolute powerhouse. But it's just so based on what I've seen, you're going to get some areas with mountains and some with not. And I know that he's going to have a starting bias of mountains, so he'll have at least that one starting area. But after that, it's just, where's he going to go? And I just kind of worry about that. So yeah, D tier, no doubt there.
I will say though, there's a short list of leaders that I want to play with and I'm excited to play with and I'm kind of determined to make good. Like I mentioned Harriet Tubman earlier, Jose Rizal.
Yep.
Pachacuti's on that list for me. I've really he'll be one that I probably play day one, like on the 6th or something, because it just sounds cool. I don't think it's very good, but it sounds really fun.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes into this next leader as well. One that this is the last one on my list that I'm very, very excited to play. And that's Tecumseh. Also, I'm from Oklahoma and currently live in Oklahoma, so I feel like I had to. There's a Tecumseh Street like a block from my house growing up, so I feel like I have to like this guy.
Yeah.
But he also lines up exactly with the playstyle I like. So his unique ability is increased food and production per age in settlements for every city-state you are the suzerain of. Increased combat strength for all of your units for every city-state you're suzerain of.
So good.
This is the exact kind of way I like to play Civ. Is I like to leverage the city-states. I like to create relationships with them early on, and again, kind of use that leverage to give me extra war strength and kind of expand based on that if I'm going to expand. This would be the way that I would play from militaristic if I could. So we have him in A tier. If this were just my tier list, he's probably S, right behind Machiavelli, just for personal, stuff. But I think A tier is pretty fair for him. I think this is a really cool way to play this game, and one that I'm very, very excited to play.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the only reason why I didn't rank him a little higher is because once you're suzerain, a lot of those city-states apparently very often, especially later into the game, they become a part of your empire, and then you kind of lose that ability. And so for me, that's where I wasn't able to put him into S tier. But you get new city-states with every age. So that's where it kind of balances out for me as you go on. And it makes it so that at the beginning of every age, basically, Tecumseh is going to be insanely strong. Or I shouldn't even say the beginning, like the middle of the beginning, right? So if there's 100 turns, by turn 25 up through turn 75, like that 50 turn period, not directly in the middle, but kind of close to the middle, that part is where he's going to be super strong. So very, very much agree with you on that. I think he's going to be really good. And, I love that, his agenda is literally called Suzerain of the World.
So cool.
So good. So good.
And I've talked about influence a lot, and I'm very high on it. I'm a broken record at this point, but he is going to be very dependent on influence. So he doesn't really have anything baked into his kit to give him more influence.
That's
so
true.
You're going to have to find ways to get that, because that's how you leverage those city-state relationships.
Yeah.
Without influence, you really can't do that. And so you have to be it is your most precious commodity on Tecumseh. So you really can't do a lot of the endeavors with other civs. Like you really need to focus on city-states if you're going to play him, for at least how I see it. So
yeah, you probably won't be really friendly without anybody outside of like one. And that's again like one thing I will give the Civ team credit for is a lot of these leaders feel very true to what they were in real life, and I really appreciate that. But let's head to Trung Trac. I hopefully did not butcher that, but. Gain a set number of free promotions on your first commander. Your commanders gain additional experience, gain increased science in cities on tropical tiles. This bonus is increased during any formal war you declare. Wow. Okay. It's going to be really good. The thing that's holding her back, I'll start there. The science in cities on tropical tiles, again, similarly, you're going to have to be settling on those, archipelagos and very much in the tropical areas of the game, but that can be tough. You're going to be fighting over that territory without a doubt. That's what keeps her out of at least S tier for me. But gaining a set number of free promotions like S, multiple promotions on your first commander. That first commander is going to be uber strong. You're going to have a very easy ability to take city-states, to take other settlements very quickly from other people. And the fact that you gain additional experience on top of that with commanders who are, like you said earlier, right? Some of the new things they're adding to the game are going to naturally be very strong. If your commander is getting additional experience already, like that's going to make you super strong. And then you're getting a science bonus just from declaring any formal war. So it's going to be somebody who you're going to want to be at multiple wars with, but you got to do them the right way. You can't, just make them surprise wars. But yes, there are restrictions on Trung Trac, but man, oh man, she could be very, very, very strong. And as we've talked about before, military and science, Connor, they just work together really well.
Yeah, I could have seen us putting Trung Trac in S tier, but we do have her in A tier. I think this is a leader rather that you play with a militaristic play style with kind of a supplemental science play. I don't think science is the best part of her kit. I feel like you're just using that science to supplement unlocking more, advanced units and things like that. So, but I think from the military perspective, like you said, the commander bonuses are just nutty. And if you can scale those commanders early game and get into some early conflicts with city-states, which you should be able to really succeed on because of the free promotions you get on your first commander, I think you could snowball really hard with this leader. And so I think A tier is a great fit.
I couldn't agree more. We are heading into our final two, though, Connor. The double Xerxes. Xerxes, King of Kings, and Xerxes the Achaemenid. I can't remember exactly how to say it.
Achaemenid, maybe? I have no idea.
It's some slightly Greek variation of it. But we'll start with King of Kings. Increased combat strength for units that are attacking in neutral or enemy territory. Gain culture and gold per age upon capturing a settlement for the first time. Gain increased gold in all settlements. Increased even further in settlements not founded by you. Increased settlement limit per age. Oh boy. King of Kings. Interesting. I'm actually just now realizing we may have even ranked King of Kings a little too low because I think I misread this part here at the back. So,
hey, I think we did too, Rob. So I think we just bumped this up one.
I think we're gonna have
originally we had King of Kings in B tier, but I think this is A tier.
Yeah,
especially the settlement limit per age. I mean, that is
huge.
That is gonna really help your ability to be militaristic and to expand and to not pay the happiness penalty for that. So yeah, I think this is A tier for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, combat strength for units that are attacking in neutral or enemy territory, dude. Snowball. This might be the best snowball militaristic, leader in the game. The fact that you gain culture and gold upon capturing settlements. You gain increased gold in all settlements just naturally, which is what they're already giving you. So huge. And it's increased further in settlements not founded by you. You should be at war with Xerxes at all times, basically, is the way that this reads to me. And you should be taking as many settlements and having as big of an empire as you possibly can. I'm surprised they put him as economic militaristic. I would have put him as expansionist militaristic. This might be the most aggressive civ or leader. Wow. Keep changing those up. But most aggressive leader that you're going to find in the game. Between him and Trung Trac, they're going to be very aggressive. They're going to be coming after you very quickly. Crusher of Rebellions, I don't know if that's the right one, because I think he's going to be Crusher of Settlements. this man's just going to be farming people for days. And I'm very afraid. Very afraid.
I mean, if I'm playing a King of Kings run, I'm founding my capital, and I'm literally just getting units immediately, and every other settlement I'm going to try and get is captured. I mean, if you're going to min-max his benefits, you literally just have you never create a settler unit, basically, and you only go military to start, because that's going to fuel everything. So, man, that would be a fun play style, honestly. Just like a no settlement run, or a no settler run. I mean, that would be awesome.
I mean, dude, there's a real world where Xerxes beats the game by just conquering everybody by the end of the exploration age. You know what I mean? Or like you've basically taken your entire continent over, right? And then you head into the exploration age, and everybody else is like, oh, that's what's over there. Okay. Whoops. So terrifying.
To devil's advocate this, I think if he gets stopped on his first conquest, like if he runs up against a military civ with some early game scaling and he just can't beat it, then he's dead. He's done. It's over. Like it would be very hard to play catch up with a character like the King of Kings persona for Xerxes. So
very boomer bust. Very boomer bust.
Yep. And that'll take us into our last persona, which is the Achaemenid persona for Xerxes, which this is the increased trade route limit with all other leaders. Creating a trade route or road with a merchant provides culture and gold per age. Increased culture and gold per age on unique buildings and unique improvements. This is another good one. I mean, this seems like, especially Rob, I know you mentioned you like doing trade as kind of your an element of how you like to run your empire. This seems like a pretty good one, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, might be the best trading one in the game, right? You get increased trade route limits, similar to settlement limits. I think if you're trying to create a big empire, right, a wide empire, not a tall one necessarily, I think trade routes, especially in this game, are going to be really, really, really important. Creating one with a road, right, with a merchant, providing culture and gold per age, which is super strong. I mean, if you're trading with everybody, you're trading in multiple of their cities, right? That can be really, really good. And then getting, culture and gold per age, on unique buildings and unique improvements, like you're just going to be spamming the unique buildings and improvements from your civ constantly. And there are a few different ones that you can do that with. So again, we try to take it out of it being specific civs, but this one is just so ubiquitous, right? It's just so open-ended for any of the other civilizations. You could basically play Xerxes with any cultural or economic one, really any of them, to be honest with you, if you really wanted to. As long as they have good and potentially even easily spammable unique buildings or improvements, that's going to be awesome. Because of that, we put him in here in the A tier. I can see a lot of fun ways to go about this, but Connor, overall, this looks great. Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's talk about kind of our overall thoughts here. I think that maybe this is just reflective of Rob and I's play styles and how we view things, but this also could just be the way we think this game is going to shake out. But I think we have a lot of military on the top half, not so much on the bottom half. And I think that where we see weakness is things that are probably age dependent and win condition dependent, or that just don't have maybe the opposite problem. They're just too vanilla and don't have enough of a direction and not enough kind of all around benefits. But I think overall, though, you can find any play style in S tier and A tier. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what I think I'm also seeing up there now that I look at this again is there's a lot of gold production in those tiers where I think with the both of us look at economy as such an important part of this game, because gold can allow you to go in just about any direction because you can just buy up whatever you need. So I don't know. I like this tier list. So I think we have a nice little bell curve kind of naturally fell into place. We didn't pre-plan that, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree. This was much more of a bell curve than I thought. We did not intend we did not put a limit on 4 in S tier and 4 in D tier whatsoever. That's just kind of how it naturally shook out here at the end. And look, production and economy are always going to be crucial because you can't do the rest of the game without it, right? You see those civs in Civ 6 and Civ 5 that, yeah, they may be cultural and they have no money, right? So they're not able to really win the game, right? And I think that while all civs have, I think, and all leaders, I should say specifically in this game, have the ability to make money through different buildings and different things like with culture or with science, there's just ultimately going to be a focus on economy, and economy is a route that you can do to win, but like for you to really win with economics, you gotta go like hardcore into it. So it's not just going to be that everybody's going to be kind of available in economics as a win window, right? Like ability to win with, but it's just going to be it's just going to be a natural part of the game. And what I think is interesting, to be honest with you here as well, is people have to remember that this time they are trying to get you to complete the game, whether it's just that you try to win by the end of one age or whether it's that you try to win by the end of all 3 ages. They have simplified and shortened the game for that purpose. So I think a lot of these leaders allow you to have a much better focus, right? Because they're the only thing that is sticking around through every age. And so for me as well, I was trying to consider like how able are they to kind of just go with whatever civ kind of feels right. Well, I wasn't considering specific ones, right? I was considering, all right, depending on the natural progression of the game, which one are you going to be able to pick? Which one is going to work best with your kind of, leader? And almost all of these ones in A and S tier, I think will be able to fit with a lot of different civs. So I'm okay with this for now. I'm sure that this is going to get torn apart by the time we actually get to play the game. Right, maybe Machiavelli's, bonuses don't work the way that I think so, or maybe there are going to be so many people that you can't actually do these kind of trading diplomatic things that it's just going to cause him to be terrible, and maybe there's going to be so many freaking mountains in the game that Pachacuti's just not even going to have to worry about it, right? We'll play 10 games and there's more mountains than there are flatlands. I don't really know, but I'm happy with this one. I think that it's a good tier list to start with, and if you're looking for more difficult civs to win or leaders to win with, I'd say pick C or D. They're not going to be difficult necessarily just naturally because they are a difficult leader, but maybe just because their type of civ or their type of leader and their type of bonuses may not be as strong in the first time you're playing through the game. These might be leaders that as the game progresses, we find new ways to kind of min-max their ability right through different civs, through different policies, through all these different things that have not fully been revealed yet. So very happy. I hope that all of you guys will agree with that. And if not, like as always, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, tier lists are one of my favorite things because I could so easily see on launch day, several of our C and D tier leaders becoming, these things that you see videos on, like, meta game breaking builds with these leaders. Like that could obviously happen. Yes. But this is from our experience in this game, our takes. This is one that you could debate until you're blue in the face. And so we'd love to hear in the comments what you all think of this. But Rob, I want to put you on the spot. I'll share mine first to give you some time to think, but maybe like what are your top 3 leaders you're most excited to play? Okay. Because mine, I think I've mentioned some. I've already plugged them plenty, but I am going to say Tecumseh is probably number 1. Really love the idea of playing with city states. It's the highest tier leader that I'm excited about playing. That I'm probably going to play my first run through with. My second is going to be Harriet Tubman. She rode for the Underground Railroad, and I think if you can make an espionage game work, I think that would be such a rewarding way to win, but so challenging. So I'm very excited to play her. And then Pachacuti, like we mentioned, I think he's terrible. I don't think the ability is very good, but I am absolutely going to be. I'm big on games like this where I never like to play things that I think are busted. I always love the challenge of like off meta builds. Like this goes back to my Pokemon VCG gate, those days of competing in that. Like I never used the kind of straight up meta comps, and so I'll probably have the same approach to this game where I'm going to try and make some of these leaders that I view as lower tier work. But I'm curious who you're most looking forward to playing on launch.
I mean, I think number 1's going to be Machiavelli. I've always loved reading The Prince. I think it's got a lot of interesting principles that you can see kind of weaved throughout history. And along with that, I think he's just going to fit me perfectly. Diplomatic, economic, military. Easy.
Yep.
Right? That's what I would love to do. May even be my first game. I love Augustus, too. I think he's a lot more straightforward. I'm a big fan of Rome in general, and I just love the idea of production, extra production, essentially, from your towns, extra gold from your towns. Like, I like to play wide. I like more settlements, as many as I can get, as many cities and towns as I'm going to be able to get is what I'm going to be doing. And it's going to make Augustus, I think, very straightforward for me and a natural play style for me. I think a lot of people, too. So you'll probably see a lot of Augustus games from a lot of people. And then I'm between two for my last one, so I'm just going to say both, if that's okay. But I really like the idea of Lafayette. I think Lafayette's reform ability is really interesting to me. And he might be one of the few cultural civs that I have a lot of intrigue in seeing if I can win with. And the last one's going to be Hatshepsut, actually.
Nice.
Mainly because I love the idea of trying to build just owning the navigable rivers, right?
Yeah.
If I can just fully own those and keep people from being able to come upriver to attack my cities, right? They're going to have to come by land by the time we get to the, exploration age. I think that's going to make her really, really strong. And if I can kind of stack some early game wonders, I think that she can really do some stuff. But like we said, the reason why she's in D is because of the fact that you don't know how many navigable rivers you're going to have. You don't know how long they're going to be, right? You don't know how you're going to build around them necessarily from the start. So I feel like there's a lot of really good ways for her to play. But, we're just going to have to kind of see if she can overcome some of the inherent and noticeable weaknesses that we have. And she's one that intrigues me.
Yeah. But yeah, so again, we hope you all appreciated this tier list and can add some thoughts of your own. We'll try and include the tier maker link maybe in the description as well, so you can go on, make your own tier list. You can tag us on socials if you'd like to share that with us. Rob and I both are going to be all over Civ when it comes out in early access, starting late on the night of the 5th for us. And we'll be playing it and making content nonstop here at Civ House and probably over on our Game House YouTube channel as well. And obviously on the gamehouse.com as well if you like those written articles. But again, we are a brand new channel. We just started out. We've been making videos. We're going to have a fun mix of guide content, tier lists like this. We're going to do some Let's Play content, just really just any kind of Civ content you can think of, we're going to try and put out. So again, Rob, anything else from you, I guess, before we close it out?
No. We just are looking forward to seeing what you guys think, and we can't wait to see all the other content that's going to come out surrounding this game, honestly, because I think it's going to have a lot of longevity, for a lot of different players. And, I guess one thing I will say is don't worry about the reviews too much. If you are a Civ fan, I think you're going to like this game. It's going to be different without a doubt, but I think there's a lot here that will allow you to grow with it. And I'm almost certain that by the first expansion, like true expansion, that things are going to be much better with this game. Even with some of the reviews kind of being wishy-washy about it.
Yep, I agree with Rob. I think this is a necessary pivot in the direction for a franchise that's made very similar styles of games for a long time, and this is just a cool. We're seeing an evolution of that, and I think we're seeing the devs listen to what players were frustrated about, and they're trying to take an innovative approach. And this is also a much more opening, welcoming game for maybe the newer player coming into the franchise. So, and growth is an important element for developers, so you have to consider that. But again, we're very excited to play this game. We hope you all are too. Hope you love this tier list. Give us a comment with what you think of it. And from our house to yours, we'll see you all for one more turn.